It is 7 o'clock, March 8th, 2022. I'd like to call the Town of Lake Mills Town Board Zoom meeting to order. Notice is posted at the town hall and on the town website.
Make a motion to adopt March's agenda.
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposing the same sign. Motion carries. 3 votes to adopt the agenda for tonight. Approval of the minutes, and we have several of them here, starting with the public hearing. Can we get a motion to approve the public hearing from Tuesday, February 8th, 7 p.m.
Make a motion to approve. Sorry, Tom.
Oh, you're good.
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries 3 votes to 0 to approve the public hearing on February 8th, 2022. The next one in line is a town board meeting minutes from February 8th, 2022. Can we get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to approve the town board meetings from February 8th. The next one in line is Town of Lake Mills special meeting on February 7th, 2022. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
We get a
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to approve the special meeting minutes from February 17th, 2022. And last but not least, Town of Lake Mills special meeting on Monday, February 28th, 2022. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve Monday, February 28th minutes.
We get a
I wasn't
second.
there.
Oh, yep, I'll second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries 2 votes to 0 and 1 abstain. To approve the minutes on Monday, February 28th. All right, those are out of the way. Approval of the treasurer's report.
You gotta approve the amended February disbursements first.
Yes, we can do that.
I make a motion to amend the disbursements for February from 430, no. From 2,721,294.63 to $3,160,914.63.
I'll second Jim's motion.
Any other discussion? Can we get any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries to approve February's amended disbursements. Disbursements for March.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for March 2022.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to approve the treasurer's report. Approval of the town's expense sheets.
Make a motion to approve Robin's expense sheet.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to approve the town expense sheets. Approval of the general fund vouching.
Make a motion to approve March disbursements of $152,457.43.
Second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I just have a question. Robin, we paid the state trust fund loan last month, or the one that's due in March?
That would have been in the March's disbursements.
So it was in this one?
Right.
No,
or I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
February's.
February, I think.
Okay.
hey, Dave, repeat. Dave needs to repeat the total amount of the disbursements. Could you repeat it, Dave?
Sure, yeah, Sharon, it's $152,457.43.
Oh, because I have 957. Oh, boy.
Hmm. What do you have, Jim, Tom?
The number you read, 457.
457 was passed on to us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know Sharon had sent out
Oh,
an
you know-
amended disbursement sheet right after she had sent.
When I printed it off, there was a second sheet that had a $500 thing on it, but it was hanging out there in space. That's the difference.
Okay, yes, and that should be included on the Belinsky home bond release. So it should actually be the 957.
okay. I'll amend my motion for March's disbursements of $152,957.43.
Second that motion.
Okay, motion has been seconded to amend it to 152,957.43. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to approve March's general fund voucher. Reports, Chief Miller.
For the month of February, we had 32 hours of road patrol, handled 5 complaints, spent 4.5 hours on those complaints. Handled 1 traffic crash, had 11 traffic stops, issued 6 repair notices, 4 traffic warnings, 12 citations, 7.5 hours of stationary radar, issued 1 ordinance citation, had 17 residents and business checks, 22 park checks, and monitored 2 extra patrols during those hours. The squad car body work has been completed and it's back in service. We just have to set an appointment up for the restriping of the area that was damaged. Other than that, it's up and good and looks brand new again.
Good.
We are conducting interviews on March 18th for another boat patrol position of 2 applicants. And I'll let the town board know how that goes after the interviews.
Excellent. Great
But
news.
that's been pretty quiet.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it and all your efforts. Plan Commission report of proceedings from the last meeting, Jim.
Plan Commission approved the amendment to Jefferson County zoning ordinance related to the agricultural tourism. And then the Lens Trust conditional use for the dog kennel was approved with the 1 condition: noise complaints that violate Town of Lake Mills ordinance. Public nuisances may result in suspension or revocation of the kennel license. That was it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir. Cambridge Fire and EMS report.
We have not had any meetings. Our next one is, I think, on the 12th. Well, it's after the election. I think it's in April there. I think it's the Wednesday after the election to, take a look at what happens with the referendum. Otherwise, the public promotion meetings have been going on, which have been Zoom and tours and luncheons and all that stuff. I did not check in to see what happened with last Thursday's meeting, but most of them are low attendance, which I guess it's not really super surprising. But so other than that, it's been quiet.
Excellent. All right, right into the next one, I guess. Lake Mills EMS report, Dave.
Attended the special city council meeting that they had. Lengthy discussion. The meeting for one subject was about an hour and a half long. There was a lot of good things a lot of good discussion that came out of there, of not having any numbers, no budget, not a real particular decisive direction, which is true. And obviously it's a big task to undertake, but the biggest thing is the purchase of the ambulance, which the city did on a 3-2 vote, did pass the purchase of the ambulance, which I think was a really good idea. It's right in town. It's a new chassis, it's a refurbed box. And if that does not go into service, that could be sold for the same price or even more. The only real question I have there was not a lot of details on what is all in this ambulance, if it's just strictly the chassis in the box, because if you're gonna put a electric cot in there, those are about $40,000. So I don't know if that's included or what it's gonna take to retrofit the whole thing. So I guess that is one piece. I guess, that's really kind of basically everything that came out of that meeting was the purchase of that ambulance, so.
Okay. Excellent.
Oh, yeah, the other thing too is the city is gonna take it out of the ARPA funds. So,
Okay.
they're not gonna be going for the taxpayers' money. And one of the other city council members had brought up the subject of if the city uses their ARPA money for the purchase of that, and they do get the ambulance service up, is how the townships of the other municipalities are going to be reimbursing the city for that ARPA fund, and also potentially interest charges on the money that we're using. So just another little tidbit of the chatter on the council. So
Was there any discussion on the current equipment by the current operator?
yeah, there was a little bit of discussion on there, and I think there's a little bit of a reluctance of them wanting to let go of that equipment. I think, I want to put words in their mouth because they're not here to defend themselves, but I think they have the idea of possibly becoming a transport service, but that's not going to be that simple because it's a nonprofit. So then they're going to have to go in and change the statute of under what they operate. And also then, and we've discussed a little bit before too, on exactly who owns that equipment. Steve did suggest that he is trying to work with them to purchase at least one of those ambulances. So, I think it's in the works, but it didn't look real hopeful. And ideally, it'd be ideal if, the city could just, and I'm not saying that's what they should do, but because the building is there and they have the equipment, it would be nice if they could get an agreement to step right into that. But that's a whole nother matter.
Excellent. Thanks for
the other. I just have a question.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
The other thing is are they assuming, the city assuming that all townships that are served by the EMS presently are gonna still stay with the city of Lake Mills?
Well, Jim, that was one of their concerns because obviously the spread is less. Because the town of Waterloo is looking at signing a contract with the city of Waterloo to take over the rest of their service. So there would definitely be one less divider, so that there was talk of that. Waterloo has not signed, so that is one of the worries that could possibly happen. So I don't know, I have a lot of opinions, but I'll just kind of keep those to myself. But that wasn't the report.
I think it's pretty early in the game, I think, in a lot of different areas yet.
It's a tough road. It's a tough road. To get the level of service and to put that all together. I've witnessed a few, paramedics, on the job, and you definitely have benefits with paramedics, but it's one of those things, guys, where, I think they're going to be wading around in the shallow end of the pool. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to jump in the deep end and, have at least 6, maybe 7 full-time employees to really be able to cover this, because the day of looking to see who shows up if there's a call is over. that's over. Especially if you get the growth that potentially we could have over the next couple of years. And you're gonna have more residents, and I think the demand is gonna become higher. So
Gotcha.
again, a little bit of opinion. I'm trying to stay away from that.
No, I just, thanks for your efforts on that. And I'm glad you went, and it's been in your wheelhouse anyway with the EMS. So that's great.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. All right. Joint Rock Lake Committee report.
This is Stan Smanieski of the Joint Rock Lake Committee. As Susan informed you through email, Greg Waters, City Council President, let us know that we have a new city representative. Her name is Kathy Kuntz. We're requesting the town to update their website with her contact information and remove Susan Nessman's information on the website. Secondly, we would like your input on our AIS recommendations, which were forwarded to you January 22nd. When might we hear your thoughts on the protocol for managing the cleaning tools at the boat launches, the purchase of the manual for the citizen monitors, and whether the town would be willing to be the grantee on the AIS grant with the DNR? Thirdly, we're drafting recommendations to reincorporate the green infrastructure, which was originally in the Sandy Beach boat launch, but wasn't in fact implemented when they went to construction. We are looking for ways to bring the importance of green infrastructure into the Sandy Beach redesign in general, trying to bring that in early in the process as it proceeds, where it would be most effective. We're thinking that green infrastructure could help address the E. coli concerns at Sandy Beach West. And that's it for my report. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I've got one. Have you guys, has the committee addressed the town issue? Because I haven't heard a lot of talk on the Mahala Channel and coming up with a plan and execution for recommendation to the town board on the entirety of the project. We did hear last meeting, I think, for the first time in a long time, about the RLIA receiving the grant for the upper portion, which I think is great. That part is underway, but we haven't heard anything. And I'm a little bit perplexed that we're kind of going off in all these other areas, and a lot of them are environmental related, which is, obviously of concern. But we're also sitting with a dung heap of toxic material in Rock Lake. So it's kind of come see, come saw, so to speak. We need to get that addressed. And that was kind of the priority that the town board set for the Joint Rock Lake Committee.
Yeah, Tom, we talk about it at every meeting. I think getting the grant with RLIA, which they worked on, I think that was a key pivot point. We're looking at the next steps there, what that grant will be doing. That's where we're at. That's what we're talking about at this point. We're not talking about further downstream in terms of other solutions yet.
Okay, is that going to be coming up? We're creeping up on a better part of a year now. And obviously we'd like to, every year that goes by, the problem, continually gets worse, and it is going to become way more costly. And so addressing that, I think, is of great importance, because it is a lake issue in its entirety, to have that stuff, in the lake.
Yeah, if I might, this is Tom Krejci. We did have a meeting earlier this week, Rock Lake Improvement Association, about the grant. The deadline for the grant would go into effect March 15th. We have up until March 17th to accept or not the grant. And this is a planning grant. The DNR monies, I think, are $18,000 and change. And so this would just be original soil samples and collecting information, elevations of the land to see which of the possible solutions would be acceptable, and then coming up with plans for shovel ready. Unfortunately, we do not have permission from all landowners to get on their properties to do the soil sampling and the elevations yet, and we're working on that. We have another meeting planned for Friday.
Wow, thanks
You know,
for that.
Tom,
report. Thanks for that report, but that's the upper portion. I was trying to address what's already been done, the damage that's already been done and is sitting in the lake.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, I know the town board has talked about near the culvert. And we've, I'll bring it back to the committee but basically what you're saying, Tom, is you want a recommendation from us for what to do for the channel with the landowners?
Correct.
that are-
The toxic mess that's in the lake, how are we going to get it out? How's it going to be paid for? What kind of ingenuity can we come up with? So this is an impactful, not just for a few people, but for, potentially the entirety of the township, because we're talking about, probably fairly substantial costs. And from my knowledge, and I think this was reported way back when by several of the concerned people that are on the channel, or at least one, I believe they already have a permit out for a dredge, and I think that's a ticking time bomb, essentially, that runs out at some point in time. So I think there is a sense of urgency. That's why we gave it. It's a very challenging project. I understand that,
Right.
but it was essentially waived by for the past several years, far before when I came in. And anytime you push something down the line, the problem gets worse. So, we need to get this cleaned up, because we can have there's a lot of issues, don't get me wrong, but I don't see, if we're not going to solve one issue, why are we going to go and start solving all the other ones?
I think when you have lots of issues, you have to deal with the ones you can, and you work and problem solve the other issues. I'll agree with you that it's going to be a large, substantial amount of money that you guys are going to be talking about. And we can make recommendations here and there, but I think it's a very complex problem at this point. I'll bring your concerns back to the committee, and we'll talk about this permit that's going to run out, and see what the committee can recommend. I want to go back. Sorry.
I appreciate that, because we just have not heard any reports. It's been crickets at the town board. And I think the other board members will agree with that, we were expecting, monthly updates or an update every time on some level of progress. So when we don't see any progress, raises a lot of red flags on the entirety of the project, because the little portion that's been done as far as getting the grant for planning and on the upper spot, I mean, if we had to gauge how far along are we in this process, because to me, it only appears we're maybe 10% of the way, because there's a lot of work that's got to be done, physical changes and things like that. And I was expecting that we'd have some kind of plan for the overall entirety of this thing, and at least come to a recommendation so we can start to, address this thing. Because the longer it gets pushed off, again, it becomes more costly, and we just need to get to some kind of resolution so we can, eventually get this off the table.
Well, your perspective is really interesting, Tom. I wouldn't agree with all of it. I'm sorry. I want to come back to our report, that we're asking for your input on this recommendation that we sent to you folks in January. We got the cleaning tools.
That's not the question that I had, Stan. You already presented your report, and you already presented that portion of it. I'm just asking, we need to get a report on the Mahala Channel and the entirety of the project, that the toxic waste, material that's in the lake, it has to be addressed. It's important. It's important to the community. I don't think anybody wants that stuff in the lake. So we have to get, we have to get there.
Tom, I'm not sure which toxic waste you're talking about. And I think the history of the project, that it's been up to the individual landowners to cooperate on their channel to figure those problems out in the past. If you want to make a new precedent and you want to talk about that, that would be great for you guys to talk about. But if you're looking for a recommendation for us, for what you to do directly with your money that way, I think we'll talk about it at our next meeting.
We presented a big challenge, but we want ingenuity behind it because of the extent of the problem. And
there's a lot of thought and problem solving that has gone into this with these studies.
well, please show us, because we haven't seen any, and that's what we're asking for. That was merely the simplicity of what we were at, that I'm asking for tonight. So I think the board would like to see that. And we have not seen anything, and we haven't heard any reports other than the report we heard last month. So you can understand our frustration when that amount of time goes by and we don't hear anything, especially with a priority that we gave to the committee. That's all I had. That's the only question I had. All right, next report.
Okay, so you're not going to respond to our questions at all. And you haven't been at our last 3 meetings.
I took notes on your questions, and we will address them, but they aren't going to be addressed tonight. That has to be a discussion and decision topic for the board, and that's not on tonight's agenda. Moving on to the next report, town chairman report. That's me on city, county, and state communications. So I met with the city on several topics, hot button issues, EMS being one of them, wastewater treatment being another one. And we talked very, very briefly on extraterritorial zone, but more of a mention that we were going to be working on that probably after our April meeting on the municipal boundary agreement, and determining what we're going to do with the ETZ. Wastewater treatment was more of a stance of the discussion was, how do we, because an option has been selected, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen 100%. But with any option, they're all expensive, and obviously we're trying to come up with ways to reduce and buffer costs for the entire community that's on sewer, because those costs are going to go up substantially in a time where we all know costs are increasing in a lot of different areas kind of at the same time. So we just did a little bit of brainstorming. It sounded like they were going to hire, and I think at the last council meeting that I attended, it looks like they're going after a consulting agency to essentially kind of start to hunt some of these things down to cushion the blow on the wastewater treatment. On the EMS front, very complicated matter. I don't think I need to reinvent what Dave said, because I think a lot of what Dave said got talked about in that meeting. But it's very, very complicated. I think the only other thing I would add to that is that there was numerous options that may be presented, maybe hybrid options with the current, and potentially a couple different options that the city would propose. My big concern, obviously coming out of that meeting and even during the meeting, is this is kind of it's not just a statewide issue, because we all know that there's a lot of communities facing this. It is a state issue, statewide issue, but how do we this isn't just the city. This is like, we're talking about the community because we were all being serviced by the same current the current operation. And so it's really a community problem. And so, hopefully at some point that's the way it starts getting addressed. There is no guarantee from my conversation that townships are just going to sign on. In fact, I think, if this thing drags its feet any longer, I think townships might start bolting and doing their own thing. And that's pretty scary to me, because that doesn't create, really a win for the community and the situation long term, to be sustainable. So that was kind of the gist of the city discussions, pretty high profile things. County, I met with the county director, Mr. Ben, and we discussed a lot of these same issues, just because I wanted to see what the county perspective was. EMS apparently was getting addressed several years ago before COVID hit. They were starting to look at, different models, knowing that the old model of doing things probably wasn't, didn't have a ton of longevity. But of course, COVID hit, everything kind of shut down, and, and the talk stalled. I'm confident that I think, that there may be some semblance of county participation in this. To what degree, I don't know. But I think, once again, because our communities are so, fairly close together for the most part in Jefferson County, with a lot of neighboring communities, I think there can be a lot of great idea generation, to try to solve not just what's going on here immediately right next to the city, but in the surrounding areas as well, because it sounded to me like he's heard from every area that there's many challenges, Fort Atkinson, you name it, all these individuals, Cambridge, I'm sure. Everyone's facing their challenges and pressure. So that's kind of where we went with that. We talked a little bit about growth, and because it kind of ties into everything. Like, we talked about, oh yeah, what if Amazon builds in Cottage Grove? What does that do? What does that picture look like for Jefferson County? Because anytime you have growth, obviously services become really, really important, and it affects those services. So we have to be wary, like, obviously we're, because we're rural, and we love agriculture, it's really hard for, townships to grow. And of course, with the Rural Preservation Acts, there's difficulties that lie within as well. But push comes to shove as cities annex, and it's happening in other areas. We start to lose tax base, and so at some point in time, we have to identify those areas and what kind of what are we going to be up against when that happens. To be able to do those things in a reasonable fashion if and when they do happen. So it was a good meeting. We also talked about our committees a little bit. At least our township committees, and just standard operating procedures. I just asked him, I think it's really important that when our committees are operating with people, that our town clerk is being CC'd, because there's a lot of issues sometimes that they may be committee based, like they are for the committees to work on, and there might be issues that they should just come straight to the town board. And if we don't see any of those communications, we're completely out of the loop. And I think he agreed that, that is good standard operating procedure. So, we're all in the know about as a board as to what's going on with those communications. And it's part of the Open Public Records law too. So I think that will definitely improve after the conversation there. There wasn't really any state communications other than road stuff, which is complicated with the infrastructure bill, which is, is an essentially kind of an ongoing thing and different things going on with it. So it's a tough one because it's been changing along, all the time. And it's been very painful and not just painful for townships, but also painful for the city and county. With those changes, we've all, and I think we've all been scrambling, trying to make our adjustments so we can try to capitalize in the areas that we can. So that's all I had for that report. Is there any questions?
Yeah, spot on, Tom, on a lot of it, as far as there's going to be text amendments that are going to have to made for, the prime farmland to make some adjustments for some of these things to be done. But one of the questions I have, and I know when John talked about the wastewater treatment, he talked about the 5 options. Do you remember any of the particular details of option 3 that you're talking about?
Option 3 is basically they build the new facility, and there's actually 3 options within phase 3, and I think they
Okay.
A, and I'm trying to recall them all off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know, because
But
John talked about a lot of stuff.
but it also has the most financial impact for the community. So, or for the people on sewer, because essentially your cost, the rough cost was like 500 per annua to 12 or 1300 per annua. It was a massive increase. And the difference between the other 2 phases, phase 1 was pretty pigeonholed as to what they could do, and probably didn't have any expansion opportunities. Phase 2 was kind of along those lines, but option 2 went in 2 phases. So the cost would be spread out over time as far as those increases. So basically they went for option 3, but the sticker shock is huge on the front end. In a really bad time when inflation is going rampant and other issues that we're seeing with other costs. So it's of grave concern, and we're kind of stuck with the service, right? So where we can help, it's beneficial for us to help. If we need to write letters of support or whatever for grants or whatever funding mechanism they can go after at this point in time, I think that's great. I'm frustrated personally because coming out of a different sector of agriculture, I see what's going on in Europe, and it just seems like the Europeans with technology and environmental stuff, they're so far ahead of us. And when you see facilities built that are like, half the size and 30 to 50% more efficient and more environmentally friendly, I quite don't understand the push by the EPA and DNR as to why are we being impatient and jumping into a kind of the same old Joe system.
Yeah.
That's frustrating, I guess. But that's just my personal perspective on it. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move on then. ETZ committee.
There were no meetings, but the one issue did come up. A person on Linden Street wanted to upgrade it or sell his home. He needed a new sewer system, septic tank system, and a well. And he asked, Robin forwarded it to me, and basically I told him that there's city sewer and water in that area, and by state statute, if it's within a certain distance, they have to connect, which would mean annexation. So I did tell them that they needed to check with the county first if they could even get a septic permit. And then the second thing would be to contact a well driller, and if they would issue a permit, then they could drill a well. But in the end, I said, you're probably going to end up talking to the city. So I haven't heard anything back from them.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. First committee report. They did not meet last week because of quorum issues. One person was out of town and another was ill. So so we did not meet. They're trying to reschedule that meeting, I think, for March 17th. I don't know if that'll happen or not yet. All right. Now with reports. Moving on to the period of public comments. I'd ask that tonight's meeting is long. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. And we will get that rolling.
And I ask that before anyone speaks, that they state their name and address very clearly so I can get that noted. Thank you.
This is John Crump. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you know my address, but it's N6682 Sherwood Hills Road. And I'm coming as president of the Rock Lake Improvement Association because we saw that on the agenda, we're going to talk about the recommendation to change the slow no wake buffer to a consistent 200 feet. And I think the board knows that Rock Lake Improvement Association also supports that change. And I wanted to let people know that we have a new, very nicely done, very excellent, really, informational page on our website, which is rocklake.org. It's the Rock Lake Improvement Association website. And if you go on the homepage, there's notes and announcements. And if you click on the first one, which is about that issue, it'll take you to a page that really goes in depth, shows maps, shows why we think it would improve safety and really take very little usable lake surface away from boaters and water skiers. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, is it okay if I go now? My name is Melissa Furman. I live at 225 Circle Drive in Lake Mills. And I am here because I saw the discussion about the 200-foot slow no wake, and I would ask the board not to approve that. Reason being, if there's a change, I believe it will make the lake more congested. I believe there'll be less room to maneuver safely in the lake. There'll be less calm water to water ski in. There'll be less room for water sports to participate on. I believe that consistent enforcement of the current 100-foot slow no wake for boats and the 200-foot slow no wake for PWCs would improve the lake as it is. I think those need to be enforced consistently before you consider changing them. Thank you for your time. I did send a letter as well. I hope you got that.
Yeah, Robin, was there anything different in that letter? Do we need to read that?
I honestly didn't have a chance to read it. Melissa, did you cover everything in your letter?
I covered everything in it, and I also referenced, I had written a letter to you back in June 22nd of 2001, and I explained my background on the lake, how I used to be on Joint Rock Lake Committee for almost 10 years, how I used the lake for all different aspects, swimming, water skiing, wakeboarding, paddleboarding, kayaking, and I mean, I'm out there every day in the summer, and I just do not feel that changing that is something we need to do right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder if I could talk. My name's
Absolutely.
Carl Glassford. And my wife and I live at N6481 Sherwood Meadows Drive. I've been a lifetime boater myself, and I feel we've got a real jewel in Rock Lake. Last summer, I started paddling with the Club 55, the seniors group that was started by Carol Burrows. This really gave me a good chance to observe the boat traffic on Rock Lake. One of the incidents I saw on Rock Lake during paddling there was two watercraft boats, obviously driven by young men, and they were both circling and trying to create as big a circle or as small a circle as they could get. And they were right next to the existing buffer area. And that created a lot of waves coming in at us at different angles. And with a small boat like a canoe or a kayak, you can anticipate good waves, but you have to sort of head into them. But this didn't give that option because they were coming from every direction because they were made from all these different directions. Anyway, we did get by that. Luckily, we didn't spill. And there is ever increasing number of boats with huge motors on them. The increased horsepower makes these boats very fast. And researching the issue, we found out that anything that's like 300 horsepower and above, you're talking like a ground speed of 65 to 70 miles an hour. That is very concerning. That kind of speed boat is coming towards you on the lake. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you please
Okay.
state your
Yes.
name?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was coming through.
Okay.
My name is Jim Kerler. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. That has nothing to do. My name is Jim Kerler, Kerler. I'm a resident at 369 West Prospect Street in the city of Lake Mills, and I've been here for about 15 years. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I read also about the ordinance you're considering tonight for a slow and awake activity on Rock Lake. And personally, I enjoy paddling my canoe and swimming in the lake, and occasionally fishing as well. As other people have said, Rock Lake is a wonderful asset for both the town and the city of Lake Mills. Its beauty and the recreational opportunities really help define our area. Traffic on the lake is growing, though, and that makes it important that Rock Lake continue to be a safe place for everyone in the lake community. So I'm here to encourage you to move forward with standardizing on a slow no wake operation of motorboats within 200 feet of shore. I think this will increase safety for non-motorized people like me, for instance, and it'll simplify the rules for people with motorboats and jet skis. I suspect it will also make the job of the boat patrol a little easier. The 200-foot slow no wake should lower the chance of a boating accident for paddlers, swimmers, fishermen, families with children in the lake, even dog owners. And I understand it really only involves a small change in the lake acreage that would be available for higher speed boat operation for things like water skiing, tubing, cruising, whatever. So again, I want to encourage you to move ahead with offering this additional safety measure to the public. And that's what I came to say. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Hi, I would like to speak. Hi, my name is Trish Fullerton, and I'm here with my daughter, Paris Fullerton. We live at N6694 Shorewood Hills Road in Lake Mills. And I would like to speak first and say I'm not in favor of the 200-foot no wake. I feel like that's going to make more congestion on the lake. I agree with what Melissa Furman had stated. And I also feel like there's already a 10 to 7 time frame where there's no water sports before 10 o'clock a.m. and there's no water sports after 7, where people that want to swim and do paddle boarding and kayaking and fishing have that certain time where water sports people do not. So if they would like to go ahead and, you know, make the slow no wake 200, then maybe they should make the hours on the lake sunrise to sunset like they are on most lakes. And also, I feel like a lot of the people that are speaking, except for Melissa Furman, are older people, and their lifestyle has changed. I have kids that don't have a lot of things to do right now, and the lake is their outlet. And my daughter Paris would like to speak right now.
Personally, in the past 2 years, kids don't really have anything to do. Like, we never really have anything to do to winter, so we usually just stay home because it's so boring out And sometimes it's not even safe to go out with friends because the roads are bad and stuff. So, and when I go out on the lake, I look forward to it, and there's a lot of things to do. And yes, swimming is fun, but like you're obviously going to get sick of it, and that's why you go out. And me, I have my boater's license too, and I think it's already chaotic enough just driving out there. And there's a lot of idiots driving out there, and if we have less space, there's probably going to be more boating accidents, which isn't going to make it the lake any safer. And I enjoy the lake really much, and I think everyone deserves to have their free time and to do what they love out there. So and plus, like, if you love kayaking and paddleboarding and fishing, you could also do that at night too, whereas we can't because it's night and that would be illegal.
The time frame's limited. I also own a business on the lake, and a lot of my paddle boarders and kayakers, they go out before 10 o'clock just because it's a calmer time to go out because of not just the water sports, it's the fishermen are out there, they're going fast and, crazy on the lake, and it's just a safer time to go, the before 10 and after 7. You don't have you already have, slow no wake, and you can't do water sports. So I think just that time frame helps those people be able to do what they want to do without having to worry about water sports, unless it's the jet skiing. So I'm against moving the slow no wake to 200. I think it's going to create more problems, a more congested lake, more accidents. I think there needs to be the rules that are in place now need to be enforced. And I think the people on the lake need to be educated and know what the rules are. So I'm very much against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom. I have a comment to make. Jerry Batzner, B-A-T-Z-N-E-R, N6706 Lake Lane, town of Lake Mills. And our home is right off of Ferry Park, and our patio is about 25 feet off the lake, and our sunroom is about 35 feet high off the water line. And because of that, we have an amazing view of the lake, but also we're able to see quite a few things that happen on the lake that aren't really positive. And I think some of the things that were brought up by the people that were in favor or not in favor, they both overlap. And the issue seems to be is that boaters are not consistently more than 150 feet from the shoreline. On a daily basis, you'll see people closer than 150 feet to the shoreline riding their boats. Secondly, when people are fishing or swimming closer than 150 feet and their boats are parked, when they start to go up again, they leave from 80 feet from the shore with their motors full open, and they don't go at a slower speed. Boaters oftentimes, and I see this sitting on our patio all the time, they pass on the right side of the person boating, and they pass at a high speed, and they pass usually at the last second because they aren't looking ahead. And in turn, they're 60 feet from a swimmer, 60 feet from a boat, 60 feet from a dock, and they're way in too close because of that last minute change. Another thing, the paddle boarders do need some safety. I'm in favor of the 200 feet, but I'm also in favor of enforcing the rules that are there in place right now. I think that safety zone for paddle boarders and swimmers is important. On the south side of the lake, I have a concern with that Glacial Drummond Trail overpass. This past summer, there were probably on any weekend 24 boats that were parked or jet skis or rafts, and they in turn are starting to turn up the water, and there's a very good ecological weed beds there, and those weed beds are being turned up because they're moving from that area faster than they should be, and I don't think they are completely aware of that. Also, the power loading issues, everybody knows about those off the two town docks and the city dock. I don't think people are being educated on that. All I hear from people is there's a rut there. Why doesn't the town do something? Usually they use the word city because they don't understand the town and the city relationship because they don't live in the area. But the reason that there is those gaps in the soil or the sand is because of the power loading. And I know that that's going to become more of an issue this year if the water level is low. Bigger concern is where the money's going to come from to fill those holes as a dump truck of gravel is getting more and more expensive, or sand. You know, and another thing that, you know, reason I followed the thought process of 200 feet from the shore, Monona, Wabasee, Congoza, all have 200-foot limits. You go into Waukesha County, all the lake country lakes are 200 feet from the shore. So anybody that's coming from another lake is already familiar with that 200-foot zoning. You know, and when you look at after a weekend of busy lake usage, if you were to go on your dock and look in the water, you see nothing but cut up vegetation. And usually on Sunday, you can't even see the bottom of the water. And then by Monday morning, it starts to subside. And by Monday night, it's all gone. So all that turn and churn of those weed beds are also, you know, spreading the milkweed and some of the other things that we're concerned about. But that is turning the water, you know, up more than what it should be because of some of the closeness to the docks, the 150 not being consistently enforced. You know, 200 feet would help it. I think the other thing is going to be is that, you know, we probably need to think about if our summer is as busy as last summer, how do we enforce the laws that we have in place? You know, I think the biggest thing is last year was worse than the prior years just because of COVID and so many people using the lake. And as many people have stated, you know, our lake is a gem and, you know, we have to be careful not to lose track of that. Because that is the whole reason, you know, why so many people move into our town or on the lake is because of that. We've only been on the lake for about 6 years, but I can tell that there's already in that short time period a decrease. And when you talk to, you know, I have 2 neighbors that have been on the lake for anywhere from 30 to 60 years. And all of them have said that, you know, some are in their 4th generation that they can see changes to the lake and not to get back to this, you know, well, you know, it's the old folks and, you know, 4th generations are 35 years old. So I don't consider that to be old folk. And if a 35-year-old can see a decrease in the quality of the lake, that's sort of a concern that I have. So I think, you know, we are the stewards of that environmental envelope around our township and we need to protect it in whatever way is necessary. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on. Applications, discussion or decision or request made by the Donald C. and Jean J. Lentz Trust for a conditional use permit to allow for a kennel of 5 dogs in A1 zone. Open the floor.
I don't think they're going to be on tonight, correct, Robin?
Correct. They don't have the means to do Zoom and they are elderly and they were having issues getting around. So.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if you have any questions, what they want to do, I guess I could tell you what they told us at the Plan Commission, but her letter that's attached to this application, it pretty much spells it out.
Yep.
I could tell you the comments at the Plan Commission from the Muchkas who live right next door to these people. They have 2 big dogs. The Lenzes have 5 standard poodles, so they're 70-pound dogs also. The poodles are always out, and they turn them out in the yard. It's a fenced-in couple acres, I guess. And they just run there all day long. And when the Muchka's dogs are out, and they, of course, you got 7 dogs at a fence barking at each other. So it's quite the fiasco. Neither one's happy with the other with this situation. And then I brought up the point about the noise because that's the issue. The dog's barking all the time and nobody's taking their dogs inside to calm them down. And so we got a kind of a neighbor issue here already. And if we put the noise violation thing in there, Peter Muchka, who was here tonight, said basically he's going to be calling the Town of Lake Mills police all the time. So.
One thing we've done for past conditional uses for pets that are exceeding the number allowed in a zone is we've listed not only the condition about the noise, but also that they, over time, as the animals pass away, that they become compliant with what the current zoning allows.
Mm-hmm.
So something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, did they happen to mention how long they've already had these 5 dogs? Because I'm assuming they're just trying to get the conditional use permit to make themselves legal.
I think that Rose, well, it says in here, Rosie's 7.5, Ruby's 7, Razor's 6, and I think the other 2 are puppies. Yeah, it says that other 2 are puppies. So you got 3 dogs with half their life gone, and 2 puppies that are just starting out. So they're gonna be around for a while yet.
Yeah,
The dogs are.
I don't know. I mean, when we on one of the last rulings, when we were dealing with a much larger kennel with that could inhabit a lot of dogs, you know, obviously we put the condition in place with the public nuisance law, and that it'll be enforced. So, I mean, obviously, whatever we do tonight could be retracted, correct?
Correct.
So I don't, you know, it's nice that people are being honest. You know, they're coming forward, and I hate to say it, but I think we're going to see a lot more of this, which is, you know, it just seems to be part of the, I don't know if it's COVID driven or not, but there's a lot of people with a lot more animals, and I don't think that problem is going away, but I don't know. It's hard. I mean, they seem to at least organize in their paperwork, and I understand that we may get an enforcement call, but I mean, I guess my perspective is, how can you do it for one and not the other if it's under the same kind of conditions?
I agree. I also suggested that they
Tough.
move the fence back so they're not right up against their property lines. But, you know, that's still an option at some point if they wanted to do that. They also could keep their dogs inside a little more often, and they don't have to run out there 12 hours during the day. But I guess they just turn them out in the morning and they have free run of that whole area. So there are ways, I guess, they could improve the situation if they did get a fine or whatever. Yeah, you're right, Tom. I don't think you can object to one just because of that. And I think I think we should have that noise violation thing on a standard on our form. I really do. Because like you said, they're just more and more of these kennel licenses coming up. And I think it's because people adopt these pets from down south and things. So.
Yep. Is there any other initial discussion?
Yeah, I guess the only question Matt, if you're listening in still, have you ever been called out there?
I have not been called out there. Nothing that rings a bell recently, no.
Sure, thanks.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for Gene Lenz and Joyce Tackle for a 5-dog limit with the reinsurance of that ordinance, of the noise ordinance that Jim read into the plan commission also.
Second motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed on the same sign. Motion carries to approve the request. All right, discussion and decision of proposed driveway sightlines on Mansfield Road for John Bound on a buildable lot. I thought the board should be aware of this one because it was a little more complicated, kind of on the safety front. And because it may infringe on the state road, which is always an issue. The only question I had is it looked like they had multiple lots, and I guess I just questioned kind of why the driveway has, I mean, I guess it's on the end over here anyway. I guess that's about as good as they can get in the looks of that. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, you know, and when they originally, you know, were looking at purchase this, they wanted to purchase both lots so they could build their house basically kind of on the lot line and have one big huge lot, but it looks like they have changed their mind because you can see the setback from the property line is only 28 feet. So I'm assuming they must be leaving that open for an option for their kids or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you, Tom. You know, it's good that it's brought to the board. One, you can't go on Highway 89. And the further you can push it away from the intersection, the better off we are. So I think it looks like a good plan. About the best you're going to get, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Mr. Bound is on the call here. Want to give him a chance to explain.
Yes.
Anyone go ahead.
John Bound, I'm the builder. It's about all, the only place we put it as far as we can get it, and just keeping it on that lot.
John, where the driveway exists now, where the telephone pole and that guide wire is, are you going to take that out?
Yeah, not gonna use it. I was gonna leave it in there just for construction purposes, in case we gotta come in and out, but we can take it out if you want us to take it out.
Yeah, I guess my thought was it would be probably a good idea if it wasn't there. I don't know, Tom or Jim, have you noticed that driveway that's in there by that telephone pole?
Yeah, I drove down there. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I haven't noticed it. Go ahead, Tom.
I drove down there. I mean, that's a good question, I guess, to raise. But I agree with you. I mean, on first things first, that just, you know, that's probably as good as they're going to get with what they're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the driveway location for Hanson.
Second.
Question, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposing the same sign, motion carries to approve the proposed driveway. Discussion or decision of special event permit for the Lake Mills Regatta on Rock Lake for May 14th, 15th, 2022. I got, Robin, was there, I didn't see anything attached on the safety front. Was there anything else?
Dave Reese is on as well. He can do some explanation on this. What I sent you is what I received.
Okay, because yeah. Dave, yeah.
Hi, Tom. Yes, I'm online. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep, I can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
I
Yep.
didn't understand it. The question was there. I didn't hear the question.
So on the special events application, there's a bunch of check boxes on some things, including a safety plan. I didn't see that attached on here.
I did provide a response to each of those check boxes, and I am out of state and I don't have that document with me. So I can't remember exactly what I wrote with regards to that safety plan, other than, you know, we carry first aid and fire hydrants, and, you know, we make sure that all of our staff know how to contact EMS if needed. And if we run into any issues, we halt the event immediately and you know, get you know, take care of the situation and get everyone to shore. And as far as weather safety, we monitor lightning strikes with our phones, and we don't mess with that at all. If anything is even remotely in the area, we don't have any on the water events in that case. So I believe I wrote some of that on there. If there's additional items, I can certainly address that and provide that in writing.
Okay, you're on when is this event? I guess it's on May. Yeah, I guess what we do is have you, because I understand you're out of town, but to go back and revisit this and I guess tonight we can probably ask for a motion to approve it based on you submitting the necessary materials that are in the application. And we like to have these documented because it's hard to do stuff verbally, just so we have record of that.
No,
Dave,
I
did you
understand.
submit that by email or was that part of the written one that you dropped off? Because it's not attached to what you actually dropped off.
No, I submitted that with the, so I provided a lien waiver, or not a lien waiver, insurance
The
waiver
certificate.
with you as the named insured. And also on that on that email was a PDF where I had written up a response of each of those check items on the application.
Okay.
Okay, we can just make that a condition.
Because I only saw the certificate of insurance.
Yep.
No, it is on there. And well, let me tell you this. I produced that, and I believe that I sent it with the certificate of insurance, and it addressed each of those check boxes.
Okay. Well, we can just make that as a condition just to make sure if we can't find it.
Fair enough. Yep.
And you, Matt, a question for Matt. Is Matt still on?
Still here, Tom.
Yeah. Are you guys, is there a boat patrol on the lake for this typically?
We do provide one when we can for them. I can tell you though, we've never had any issues with this event on Rock Lake ever.
Excellent. That's all I need to know. Thank you, sir. Can
Hey,
we get
Dave, just so you know, I'm looking at the email now and I do not see any other information on that. So I would appreciate if you could try to resend that when you're able to.
Yes, I can do that here momentarily, actually. So,
okay.
But you only see one attachment, one PDF attachment.
Correct, and that was the certificate of insurance.
Then that was my error. I apologize, but I have responses, and like I said, I attempted to be very comprehensive for each of those check boxes.
Excellent. All right. Can we get a motion to approve the special event permit for the regatta on condition of receiving the material for that are on the application, the check boxes?
Make that motion.
I was hugging it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposing the same sign, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Discussion or decision or request made by Troy Schneider to have town fix snow plowing damage in front of property and road or right away. Hopefully the board got those pictures that I took. This kind of been going and ongoing. You didn't get those?
I didn't.
I sent them to Robin.
No, I did. I drove out
You
there and
sent
looked
them
at
via
it.
text.
Huh?
Tom,
Did I?
you sent them via text?
No, they were sent email because I have it in my sent box in my email.
Okay, let me see if I can find them here. Go ahead and discuss while I look for them.
Maybe you can just share. Can you just share them, Robin, or not?
I will try, yes.
Otherwise, I can try to hunt them down quick and.
Hi, everyone.
There's a mess. I mean, it's a mess. It's more than what I expected, but the only thing I'm going to say about it is we just have to kind of find a solution so it doesn't happen every year. And I
have a couple ideas.
And I'm not, I know it's kind of a tricky area and stuff too. So I always give the benefit of the doubt too. I know plowing in weather conditions isn't easy either. So.
Right. And I guess this has been something that's been ongoing, like you said. I've spoken with Hope before. And the big thing that that really accelerated things this year was we really haven't had any snow. So for yard damage to happen, it's really not necessary in my opinion. But what happened, especially this year, there was a storm, there was a couple inches of snow, and they didn't come out normally, they usually are pretty good on time. They came late, I think around 11, 12 o'clock in the evening, and I bladed and I cleaned out the whole southbound lane and about 3 to 5 feet of shoulder so you could see the grass. And then when they came through that night, they actually they ripped it up, and that's the picture that I sent Robin.
Robin, I can resend them if you want me to resend them quick.
Tom, this is one of yours.
Yeah, yep, that's it. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of when I contacted Robin.
And there's another side of the street too. Well, there's the other opposite side as well.
And I think the reason why this part of the yard, and I'm calling it a yard, I know it's right of way, but I mow it and I spray it, so I call it my yard. But anyway, the reason why most of that happens, I believe, is because the way they clean the intersection, they push everything to the west. And I know I've even talked to the snowplow driver. I've attempted to talk to Jason and been talking with Robin, but if they would push the snow to the east, they wouldn't have that problem at all. And for some reason, I know they mentioned that Robin had talked with Jason about that. And he said that it might alter his route, so it would cost the town more. Well, you guys have been out here, you know how big this intersection is. You can turn around in it 10 times if you like and not have a problem. So I don't see that being a incident where it would cost money to the town to do it that way. And I guess the other thing is when plowing snow, you have the wing is a pretty damaging piece of equipment. And when it's not frozen, you can do some damage. And like I said, we really haven't had enough snow to justify having to get it out there. And I made a lot of efforts so that there isn't a lot of blowing and drifting there with all the trees I've planted. So really blowing and drifting isn't an issue. And I understand what, as a snowplow driver, you want to get it back. But to me, since I've been bringing this up, that it's been an issue, and they make a lot of work for me. I don't have a lot of access to equipment, so it's kind of just shovel and rake it to take care of it. So, but like I said, it seems like since I've been bringing this up, I have this constant problem. So like I said, I wanted to talk about it, but it seemed like Jason in particular didn't want to talk. So that's why we're at this level.
Okay.
So my other suggestion is just to talk to him and lift that heel of that wing up a little bit. You know, leave a white shoulder. That's no problem here. You don't have to hit the grass. You don't have to rip the dirt up. So lift that wing up a little bit. And the other part of the solution is we'll clean the intersection to the east. I'd very much appreciate that. I'm not looking for anything to cost the township any money right now. But I really think though that Forest Landscaping, being a local company and a reputable company, maybe they should come out here and just fix it a little bit. And I'm not asking to replant grass. I'm just asking to bring a skid steer, grab the chunks of sod that you ripped up, you know, and grab them with your bucket and spread them out alongside the other side of the road. It could take, you know, a whole half hour. That's all I'm looking to do.
All right. Thanks for your discussion on that. I don't know if the first picture did justice, but there was a lot kind of, and the verdict's still out because there was still snow there too when I took the picture, but there's a lot of that kind of on the curb by the guardrail or whatever that is. And I guess that's I don't know what that's going to look like after the snow melts. But anyways, either way, I mean, if someone goes back out there to fix it, it's going to cost money. So you're kind of, I don't know.
In my opinion, as a reputable company, I'd want to take care of that. So that's my opinion.
I guess I'll let the board discuss it. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
Yes. Well, thank you. And I think pushing the snow to the east and clean that intersection would resolve that also.
Dave and Jim, you have anything to comment on?
I guess my first thought is, it is kind of ugly. I know when the county plows by our house, it's been so far so good this year, but last year we had both sides of our mowed area was just ripped up, and it took me 2 afternoons to fix it. So Troy, I hear you. But I think maybe, Tom, as a suggestion, we may want to note that maybe something we want to kind of take a special look at on road tour.
Yep.
As far as the cleanup and also you know, the thought of plowing all the snow to the east. So I guess that's my thought.
To try to solve the problem, yeah, before it happens again.
Correct, yeah. And the other thing is, if I look at that picture too, I'm not really quite so sure that the level of the dirt compared to the height of the road, if that's maybe some of the reason why that windrow is peeled back. I don't know. I never got a chance to go over and look at it personally, but.
Yep. I don't know. And it didn't look like there's much shoulder, but I think, you know, there has to be, some more snow that melts and stuff either. I don't know if that would help either. I don't know the answer, but I hear what you're saying, Dave. I mean, if we go down the road of fixing every little thing in the township, we'll go broke.
Yeah. And, I commend you, Troy. You do an awesome job on your lawn, so I can see why it would upset you. Because you don't have any grass out of place in your yard.
Well, thank you, Dave.
Yep, you're welcome.
No, thank you for taking time to listen to it too.
Oh, I think that's important.
I agree with Dave. We just look at it on road tour and see if we need to shape the shoulders down so that doesn't keep happening.
Okay.
But this happened prior to this last little 2-inch storm, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were already on the agenda before the snow hit.
Yeah. Yep. It was.
Because this last one, the frost has been out of the ground now again, so there's
Right.
quite a little damage
And
around or dirt
Just
plowed
to
up.
make one quick comment on the snow plowing on Monday, they did great. They didn't touch anything.
Well, they
So-
shouldn't have had to wing it off, right?
Well, they did use it because, like I said, the intersection is absolutely huge. So otherwise, they'd be there another half hour or so.
All right. Can we get a motion here?
Make a motion that we take a look at this during road tour and make a decision on what needs to be done at that time.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed on the same sign. Motion carries to take a look at this on road tour and come up with a viable solution. Discussion or decision, request for operator's license for Lake Mills Travel Plaza for Samuel B. Fune.
I make a motion to approve the operator's license.
Second.
Can I comment real quick?
Yep,
Yeah.
you bet.
There's the least a copy I have, there's missing parts to this application. And my recommendation is not approved. He does not show that he's met statute 125-17 sub 6 and attend a server training course. And that is my concern. The background check did come back okay, but without that training course, he has to have that.
Okay.
He has since forwarded that server's course. I do have it in hand now.
Okay, well then I rescind my comment then on that.
Excellent. All right.
No, you had the right to do that.
Yep.
I did catch that before and it slipped my mind again, so.
Okay, can we get a motion?
We did have a motion.
Yep.
Oh,
It's in a
yep,
second.
my brain's slipping here too. All right, yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposing the same sign. Motion carries to approve the operator's license. Discussion or decision on amendment to the Jefferson County ordinance redefining agricultural tourism. I'm fine.
Pretty self-explanatory.
So make a motion.
Go ahead.
So I'll make a motion to approve it. It's pretty, they covered it all.
Yep.
Okay, I second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Steve said that they already had 9 townships approved it, so we didn't even need ours. So.
Okay. Old business. Discussion or decision to update drainage ditch on Bridle Path by Contes. I think you got Corey's response to all that. It seemed like, I hope he answered your questions appropriately, Jim. It looked like everything was.
Yeah. Yeah, he answered my questions. I guess there's nothing to do. It's a low slope in the ditch the whole distance. According to the inverts he shot and everything, lowering the culvert at Contes wouldn't do anything. Like less than a 1% slope in that section, which is ridiculous, but anyway, can see why the water is not draining. And then it's only 1.3% all the way the whole distance, and that, you know, needs like 3 to 4 is ideal, so. I guess the only solution would be this drain tile option. I think that's the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't assume, but I assume we're gonna deal with this and we should probably go for an estimate before making a decision.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we get, talk to a couple contractors and get some prices for this, or bid estimate.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Tom and Jim, I guess, you know, to get the elephant out of the room, we've already spent quite a bit of money on that, and we're looking at spending more money. And when I look through Corey's stuff of regrading, you see that like Jim said, the slope is so minimal that that's not gonna really take care of the problem. I agree that, you know, you're gonna have to subsurface drain it to stop that weeping. But, and I know this is not gonna be a real popular statement, you know, especially since I see they're on. One, it's like, how much money can we throw at it? Then the other thing is, you know, it's a cosmetic thing. I understand, you know, it's the road right away. I understand it's unsightly. Some people would appreciate those cattails growing, and sometimes they try to promote it. In the nice area that is, you know, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to look at that, you know. So you say, well, you know, it's like, just keep weed eating it and do what you can with it. Or do you do the right thing and you know, fix it? Is that one of those things where you hate to go to a cost share because it is the town right away? But right now, if you look at it from a standpoint of, does the road right away do what it was designed to do? Yes. It does not hold water back. It doesn't flood. It allows the water to pass through. So the culvert underneath the road is fine. The culvert underneath the driveway is fine. It's just that you have that lingering wetness. So I guess, again, the elephant in the room, how much can we throw at it? And, you know, it's going to be a lot of money, you know, especially after you add up what we've already spent on it. Just throwing it out there, something to think about. I know, again, it's not popular, so.
Well, I think you raised, I'm glad you said that, because I think you raised valid points. And I guess I have a question. The last time there was money thrown at it, was there an end game attached to it? Like, this is all we're doing?
No, it was just, that was what, you know, was done, and hoping that was going to solve the problem by regrading. I believe, wasn't it, Jim?
But there was no engineering or anything done at that time.
No, and then Jim went back out and checked on it again. And I think, Jim, didn't you point out and have some more additional grading done at that time?
Yeah, the second time there was a puddle west of their driveway. And so that's the second time we went back and graded that out, so that drained out of there. I don't think that side of the driveway is a real issue. I think it's the east of their driveway that's the big issue. And
I agree.
And like we all witnessed, the driest summer we ever had, or one of the driest, and it was still wet, and it was still.
Yeah, that's a scary.
So whether that water's perched water coming out of that hillside or whatever, you know, I don't know. Something's there causing this all the time, so.
Well, it has been engineered this time. I guess my comment would be, this is all we can do. If this is a solution, whatever happens here is the end solution. There may still be sitting water there. that's out of our control. Like Dave mentioned, everything is functional. That meets what we need to do. I guess at this point, we're just making a decision on getting estimates. We haven't made it. So I guess we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, because then, yeah, we'll have a decision to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already
Okay.
paid Corey, but
Right, which is an expense in its own right. And it's
Right.
just it's a crappy situation, but I think in the end, I think we did go about it the right way to have an engineer look at it.
right, yeah, because we needed to know.
Yep,
So,
yep. Okay, well,
Heather is online if you wanted to
Yeah.
ask her.
I hear and understand all of the statements, my husband and I, and of course, we were not against the cattails, right? It's the like 4 inches of standing water there that's the concern, right? For safety and what's growing in there. But I think the one thing moving forward is that I think it's going to be key that the contractor can carry out the measurements that are given by Corey, right? That's going to be a key, like the execution of this is going to be, there's not a lot of room for error. So hoping that as a taxpayer for any project, I'd be hoping that that money was well spent and researched, and the fact that it will be effective for any project, ours or someone else's.
Right.
Yeah, but we appreciate all of the work that you guys have done on this.
and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry.
no offense, no offense. You have to say those things, right? That's part of the
Yeah.
board's job.
Yeah.
Completely
can we
understand.
Thanks, Heather. Can we call the vote?
Call
All in
the
favor? All in favor to get estimates on this, to do this work, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign.
Can we also ask Corey to give us a estimate of what I think, like Heather just stated, we want to make sure it's done right. So whatever contractor we get, I really think it's beneficial to the town to spend another 500 of Corey's time to have somebody out there directing this contractor to do it, not just let him.
It was a 3,500 to a 5,500 rough cost. He came off the top of his head.
Does that include his time though? Again, to?
No, it does
supervise?
not. So that'd be a separate motion, but I'll just finish this one. Motion carried unanimously to get the estimate. Okay, if you want to make another motion to do that, we can do that.
I'd make a motion that we get an estimate from Corey to do the construction administration on this project, or if we, go ahead.
I second it. Because you really need somebody there just checking to make sure those elevations are just spot on, because it is so, 1/10 pitch, that's not a lot.
100% agree. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to have Corey supervise this project. Discussion or decision to form a committee with appointments to serve on the town hall committee. Robin, I don't think we have anybody as of yet. Correct?
No one has stepped forward.
What's that?
No one has stepped forward.
Okay. Moving on. Discussion and or decision to propose a resolution to increase the town's tax levy. We all got a copy of this.
Yeah, is that what you wanted to say on item 3?
I thought we were scratching that. But
Yeah, well, we were scratching most of that. I
yeah.
thought the only thing we were gonna leave in there was that the $200,000 was to be used for highway purposes only.
Correct.
The rest was out.
Because I took out the language that said ongoing, which is what was discussed. So item number 3, the increase from 2,000 or 200,000 is added to the tax levy in subsequent year. Is that what you want to scratch as well?
I misinterpreted each subsequent year, I guess is what I misinterpreted on there. Is that the way you interpreted, Jim?
Yeah, that I thought we agreed that was gonna be out of there, but I can go either way, but Tom, I don't think you wanted it in there.
I think I think it should be approved every year. I mean, it's just me, just to be transparent.
Okay, so we want to scratch item number 3.
No, not totally.
No?
Just,
Okay.
just to each subsequent year.
So it should read, the increase of $200,000 is to be used for highway purposes only.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Any other changes?
That's the only one, and that's redundant, I think, in this thing, so.
Yeah, throughout the whole thing.
Yep.
That's the only thing I saw that I did question, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-028 with the correction of the scratching of the subsequent years.
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries to move the amended format forward. New business, discussion or decision of the Joint Rock Lake Committee recommendation for changing the slow no wake from the shoreline of Rock Lake from the current distance of 100 feet for motorized boats, 200 feet for jet skis, 200 feet for all boats and jet skis. I believe we have a couple of guests from the DNR tonight. To shed a little bit of light on some pros and cons on this, as well as I have a few questions too, if they're not answered in that.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. This is DNR Warden Alex Brooks. I'm your local warden out of Jefferson County. With me, I have DNR Recreational Warden Jason Roberts. Jason has a little bit more background on water regulations and dealing with this, I guess, in a little bit more of the other counties that he covers. I cover just Jefferson County, but he overall covers a little bit more as far as the recreational side of things. So I'm gonna pass over to Jason to talk a little bit more about what his experience is with it and what his ideas are with this too. So Jason.
Evening, everybody. I assume you can hear me. Yeah, so I was brought into this discussion a couple of weeks ago with a barrage of emails from past correspondents about moving this back, and I listened a little bit to some of the public comments about it earlier in the meeting. I don't really have a position. I'm not clear what the town really needs from me, other than if you're looking for pros versus cons. I'm not terribly familiar with Rock Lake, seeing that I work primarily kind of in the southeastern Walworth, Racine, Kenosha, but due to vacancies, I'm kind of covering over there. So I don't have a lot of intimate knowledge, but I did take a look at the lake and take some measurements from some of the piers that exist around the lake currently. And I could just tell you from a background standpoint, a 200-foot no wake is not uncommon in the southeastern part of the state. In fact, it's most of my lakes in the southeast, both Kenosha, Racine, and Walworth County, all already have one. A lot of that has to do with the lengths of their piers are commonly 100 feet. In some cases on Lake Geneva, 125 to 150 feet. So by the nature of, state law that already exists, we've got probably a 250-foot no wake zone around the lake. The cons, I think, have already been shared by some of the community members, the congestion component. But like I said, probably the busiest lakes in our region of the state, being probably like Lake Geneva, Delavan Lake, as far as volume of boat and square footage, they both currently have a 200-foot. And I looked at some of your piers. Most of your piers are around 50 feet, but I saw a few in the southeastern portion that look like they're around 100 feet. I don't know if those are condos or what exactly. They're like large pier configurations to the southeast. So by the nature of our state law, you would probably capture that. So my role is to review what you guys present. And I will say if a 200-foot ordinance was proposed by you guys, I wouldn't even give it really a side eye, as it's kind of boilerplate for this part of the state. But, the legislator sort of granted you guys that authority as a local community to make that decision in the best interest of your lake and the volume of use on your lake. I don't know if I'm talking too much. I can tell you that on average, we have about 20 to 25 fatalities out on the lakes from a statewide perspective. Of those, a very, very small portion is actually collision type fatals. We had one on Lake Geneva just last October, but outside of that, the vast, vast majority of fatal incidents in the whole state tend to be drownings, people swimming from their boats, people capsizing, or people swimming beyond their skill set from their boats. So that tends to be the majority, the vast majority of all of our incidents. Yeah, so like I said, my role really is to step in if you guys, propose something significantly onerous, like if you set a 500-foot or a, no motor boats on the lake. That's when we would step in with an administrative law judge to give an opinion as to whether it impacts the public's right to navigation. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I got. I just, like I said, by the nature of how your piers are configured, you probably already have 150-foot no wake zone with some rafts out there that maybe push that up to the 180, 185, almost 200 already on some portions of the lake. Okay. So, yeah, did you have any questions or?
Yeah, I've got several. I'm glad you kind of did those measurements because there was a lot of confusion. I think there was a lot of different measurements coming in.
Yeah.
And anytime that happens, it gets confusing. My first question is, obviously the state enacted this law and did a heck of a lot of research on it. And we forwarded over to you the Joint Rock Lake Committee's recommendations on a couple of the things that they stated, one being safety, which I think you just addressed a little bit. But the other one was shorelines, and with the amount of activity on these lakes in the south, does that 1 foot here, 1 foot there really make that much difference on shoreline protection? Or did the state, obviously I'm assuming they did extensive research on this when they instituted the legislation to come up with this law?
You're talking about the 100-foot and 200-foot rule?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, the 100-foot rule went into effect only about, I want to say maybe 10 years ago. So it's relatively new for the motorboats. The PWCs have always been the 200-foot just because they tended to overrepresent our number of accidents that we had. Yeah, I'm not an expert on shoreline erosion. I think, people that own property can probably speak to that better than I can. I know at the 200 to 300-foot level, even boats that create large waves, there's been a couple of studies, one out of like Australia and one down in Florida, that looked at the damage to shorelines from wave dissipation. And what they basically said that once you get to that about 300-foot level from shore, it's the amount of, even with the largest of wakeboard boats, which this wasn't really a discussion point here. I don't know if you guys have any on your lakes, but those new wakeboard, yeah, with the ballast systems, those, we're having communities that are pushing those back to 300 feet. But for the most part, and maybe the chief or the boat patrol can speak to that, the current laws of, preventing or keeping somebody from creating a hazardous wake is a tool that I don't think gets used quite enough. Personally, as a warden out there working, if I get a complaint of somebody, a boat or a rowboat or a kayak or getting swamped or a boat going over the sides of their gunnels, or if someone falls off a paddleboard, I'm qualifying that as a hazardous wake that I take enforcement action on. So we do have tools that already exist to address some of those concerns that I heard referenced earlier. So yeah, I can't speak to everything about shoreline erosion because everyone's probably shoreline's different. Some have riprap,
right?
Some have coves where it's already naturally protected. So,
and my another question I have is what does this do for law enforcement? Does it complicate it because of the difference between state law and in the new ordinance when you have a lot of people coming into a lake where they haven't been educated at all, or there hasn't been any preliminary education going on? Does that make their job more difficult, or what does that do in that position because the last thing we want to do is make their, have an inconsistency from a rule standpoint and then make their job more difficult with an already active lake and only typically having one unit on the lake to patrol a fairly good sized area.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the chief who is out there probably far more than our wardens are. And typically we only have one warden per area. But I will say that as somebody who patrols a lot of 200-foot restricted lakes, I find it easier to enforce only because a lot of cases, the piers already are out that distance, that the 200-foot captures that distance requirement they need to be. So it's a little clearer to the public with those buoys out at 200 feet to make sure that they're staying that 100 feet from docks, rafts, and piers.
Is there any, I mean, you've obviously heard some of the public concern tonight. Is there any other alternatives we should be doing for safety and shoreline protection? I mean, it seems like safety could be, there isn't a ton of data, it doesn't seem like, on one way or the other. And I guess I can defer one of the comments to our law enforcement on the lake because they're on it more often, but I don't, we hear of things, but I don't know if law enforcement's actually being contacted with issues. And if there's any data behind that, again, one way or the other. I mean, because safety is a big concern. Doesn't sound like the area is going to shrink tremendously, but anytime there is a lot of traffic on Rock Lake, I don't know if you've been here in the summer, but there's a lot for for the 1,000 acres of, I'm not talking about the marsh part, but in comparing it to Lake Geneva and some of these other lakes that are much larger lakes, I don't know if there's any other comparables. Like, I know Oconomowoc, I think that whole area, I think they're still operating under state statute, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I haven't.
That are closer related to us, as far as lake size and demographics.
Right. Yeah, I think compression's a valid point to consider. Compression of traffic. I will say that in most instances, and maybe it's the same on Rock, that most boating traffic, I presume you have a directional requirement for, exceeding no wake, or for water skiing, or you don't have like a counterclockwise. I see some yeses and some nos.
We do not.
Okay. So that's a small tool. So what a lot of these smaller lakes do, they keep traffic to or water skiing, these faster moving boats, to a traffic lane that they define in ordinance. They'll define it from 150 feet to 250 as a traffic lane, where they require boats, if they want to exceed no wake, to be in that traffic lane and to actually be going counterclockwise.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's a consideration.
Yeah, because there was another swimming area incident too, where off of one of the city parks that doesn't have a designated swim area. And I was wondering if there's, alternatives there as well, to try to, make sure that we're in, my big worry is obviously when, and I deal with invasive species a lot, and when you don't educate on the front end and then you throw law enforcement into the scenario, it makes their life, it sounds like they usually end up educating people for the first several years anyway, without writing tickets. I don't know if that's an accurate statement or not, but I see that a lot in regulation in my background. And without any forefront education, educate the community before something like this unfolds. I just want to make sure that we're not setting up a recipe for disaster and compromising law enforcement.
The only comment I have, Tom, is I hear a lot of these complaints during these meetings, but we're not receiving any of these complaints from the individuals at the time that they're occurring or for us to follow up on. So I can tell you that we've had no reports to us of anybody being swamped or being close to being injured while kayaking or in any other type of motorized boat, or these boats operating in a reckless manner that I'm aware of, unless my boat patrolmen, when they're out there, being told without my awareness. And I'm not for or against either way. If the town board makes it 200 feet, we'll enforce it as directed. But I'm just telling you that a lot of these incidences are not being reported, and they should be, for us to follow up on, so we could take care of them enforcement wise.
Yeah, Matt, as long as you're on, thanks, and thanks for your patience, everyone, tonight, because I know our meeting got long on the front end here, and being with us tonight. Matt, is there a lot of accident reports that are SNW related, or is there any data on that, like locally on Rock Lake?
I know of none. We had one injury accident and that was unrelated to any slow no wake violation. We only had one incident last year that was reported to us.
Okay, I mean, granted, we don't want to have any, right? I mean, no. We want to be preventative if we can, but that was my question.
I'll piggyback off the chief too. I mean, I'd have to double check, but I don't think I've had a lot of complaints either with people being sprayed or instances of swamp boats or anything like that. I'll say that too. And yeah, I think like Chief said, I think the only one incident I'm familiar with is the same one I think he's talking about too last year, and that was unrelated to slow no wake.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. On your form that has to be submitted, Jason, I noticed that we do have to list cons, and I'm not sure that the JRLC or our committee produced cons on this situation. And I think there probably is cons. I mean, is that typically when you fill something out to apply for something, you have to have everything represented? Is that accurate?
Yes, you should probably put one bullet point just to clean your bases, but
okay.
As I said, this is not a particularly controversial in my eyes as far as what I've seen come across my desk. As far as what you're looking to do, it's probably a matter of closing maybe 2 boat lengths of water down for most of the lake.
Good.
I see. This is Warden Brooks. I see Marissa also said something about Lake Ripley already having a 200-foot slow no wake in effect. Rock Lake is obviously a little bit bigger than Lake Ripley, a little bit more different dynamics too. Based on my boating patrol experience, I think Rock Lake is one of those lakes that's getting typically a little bit more traffic, especially in the last years here with the pandemic going on. But I think Ripley is one of those you can compare, but size and usage wise, I think Rock Lake is going to be one of those that's a little bit more used, especially for water sports. And the other thing too, if this is implemented, just going off of what I'm thinking about here, education is going to be a huge stance for the first year. If it does get implemented, we want to make sure that signs are posted, and it gives the community and other folks who come out from the area to use Rock Lake are educated on this change if it does go forth. So just something else to think about as well.
Mm-hmm. Great suggestions. Thanks and comments. Appreciate your time, everybody on this.
I just have a question for Warden Jason. If we implemented this 200 feet slow no wake, would you see any need for additional buoys or is it just the signage at the ramps enough to educate the people, plus whatever leaflets they send out and things like that? But as far as additional buoys, I guess that's my main concern. We wouldn't have to put any more in, would we?
Well, I think if you have buoys that are currently there at 150 or wherever, you would move them back, I presume, right? But no additional buoys would be necessary, and buoys aren't a requirement to enforce local ordinances. The only requirement is that posting at the landing. I'll also say that I'm using my wife's computer downstairs and I'm at 3%. So I do not have her record. So
that's our fault, not your fault.
But did that answer your question, Jim?
Yes. Because people have been suggesting that we need to put all these buoys around the lake, and I just didn't see any reason to do that. We got enough buoys around the lake already, the whole west side for sensitive areas. And the other thing, Tom, is that there was a survey done on this slow no wake by the Rock Lake Improvement Association 5-6 years ago, whatever the time frame is. But there might be pros and cons in there. I don't know. I haven't looked at that in quite a while, but we should check into that report and survey and see what they had listed.
Yeah, I just thought maybe the committee would furnish that, and have that kind of polished for us, so we didn't have to do that, but that's,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
So
I don't have any more, I mean, I don't have any more questions. It's obviously, it's a controversial issue, as we heard tonight, I think, both ways.
We're talking a small area. I think, I can't remember what it was, but it's like 20 acres or something total out of 13 or whatever. The lake's 1,300 acres, but a lot of that's already sensitive area. So it's a small percentage. This would take away.
I think one of my big takeaways tonight is I just didn't want to make enforcement more challenging. I mean, just being out there with them, it's challenging enough. You know, and if their time's being compromised, trying to figure that out when they should be enforcing, because we heard enforcement may be a potential issue tonight, even though Matt, has said that there has been no call-ins on it, to the department, especially when they're on the lake. And they're usually on the lake every weekend, on the busy weekends. Is obviously a valid point as well. But, I don't know from Matt's perspective if it's going to complicate Lake Patrol's job or not. They were the ones on there all the time. I guess that's more of a question for him.
I don't feel it would complicate our job any if it went to 200 feet.
Okay.
It would be totally enforceable for us to be able to handle it. So the educational part is the main thing. We'd obviously have to give a lot of warnings for the first year until people got caught up to speed.
Right.
Is the Joint Rock Lake Committee going to come up with a time frame and suggested language, or are we going to do that?
This is Stan Smanieski on the Joint Rock Lake. We said we would do that. We would come up with writing up the request to the DNR and helping in that whole process. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to go to lawyer review or whatever for your ordinance, like you always do.
Yes, for a time frame. Is there going to be a time frame that gets decided on by the Joint Rock Lake Committee?
We suggested a time frame. This has been on the table for over a year now. We suggested this in February of last year. And we did suggest a time frame in the fall, trying to get ahead of the spring season, and now we're a little late.
Okay.
Yeah, so are we talking, we're talking
2022, does it make sense to do it for 2022 while we get the rule in place, or, to make it, or 23, I should say?
I think the public hearing and changing the signs, all that's got to be figured out. So we can come up with another plan.
Yeah, this is Tom Krejci. I mean, the signs at the boat launches need to be updated anyhow, and I would hate to have them updated before a decision was made on this, but I think those that are proposing this would be fine to move it to the start of the 23 boat season, so we can do it the right way.
Okay. That answer your question, Jim?
Can I speak one more time? This is Trish Fullerton at N6694 Shorewood Hills Road. I'd honestly like to know how many people that are in favor of the 200 feet actually do water sports on the lake, because I feel like there's a misrepresentation of voting right now.
I think a lot of that would happen at the public hearing, Trish.
So is the public hearing where this would be decided and this would be voted on?
Correct. Right. It has to go to public. It would have to go to public hearing. And at that time, that's kind of the last hurrah to voice before a final decision would get made on, putting the ordinance into effect.
Because honestly, a lot of the rules still say the 10 to 7 rule needs to go then too.
What?
Because you can't have a lake and implement all these rules against water sports and say everyone else can be out there all day and water sports can only be out there 10 to 7. I mean, who makes up these rules? People that don't want to do those things?
Well, obviously, if we're going to change the signs, we want to get as much done as possible because they're not going to be changed for a long time. I can't, they've been in place for a while, so we want to take that into consideration as well.
Trish, I would just say you got 1,000 acres of open water, and this will take about 22 acres off of that.
Right, but also the paddle boarders, kayakers, and fishermen have before 10 and after 7. Water sports does not. That is not fair, nor is it right. It's discriminatory towards people that want to do water sports. It should be the same rules.
That's law has been in effect for.
Well, that
40
law needs to be looked at as well, because most of the lakes that you're talking about that have the 200 feet also are sunrise to sunset, I believe, for water sports.
You can ask the warden, he's right here. Is that the case?
Is he still on?
Yeah, if you're talking, yeah, my wife brought the table down. Yes, you are correct. I think, I know for a fact, Lake Geneva, you can ski sun up to sundown.
There you go.
Delavan, I'm not sure about Delavan.
No, we're one of the few
most,
lakes that has 10 to 7.
Yeah, but outside of that, I would say, just for full disclosure, I mean, most lakes do have a window for water skiing. Most in the southeastern part of the state do have that window. So you get a few hours of sunlight for people that don't want to experience the water skiing. So you have usually a few hours for the fishermen in the morning, and then a few hours after, towards the sunset.
Can I say something? This is Melissa Furman, 225 Circle Drive. When everyone's saying, oh, it's only 22 acres, but those 22 acres are where the calm water is. Water skiers do not want to be in the middle of the lake where all the chop is. And so that 22 acres is important to us. I just wanted to make sure that that's understood for those that don't water ski.
And I actually never got an answer on how many people that are voting on this, or actually you did say it'd be at the public hearing, but how many people on the Rock Lake Improvement Association actually go out and do water sports? Because I'm out there and there is not enough room to do these sports. If you narrow it down even more, it's crazy. There will be more accidents.
Like I said, there was a survey done 4 or 5 years ago. I think the town should look up that survey, see how many people that was sent to, how many people responded, and what the outcome was. And that information's out there already. We decided not to do a new survey at this time because that information is pretty recent. So that information is there, but we just don't have it tonight.
Nope. What do you guys want to do? You want to table this?
Table it.
Yeah, it's not, we can't implement it before 2023 anyway, January or so. So I think we have a little time, think about it, look for that survey, get that information. I think the Joint Rock Lake Committee should provide us with that survey. I know they have it at hand better than I would be able to find it.
Yeah, and I would also like to see everything associated with what would have to be submitted as far as our process. So we don't have to go and do that. We have enough on our plate. And it'll also allow us more time. It sounds like they don't want to, it's going to move to 2023, which would give more time for education and some other things that have gone in the time being. And the last thing I want to do is update our signs. And all of a sudden now we're changing another rule and we want to do this all in one shot if we're going to do it.
Yeah, I can put that on the, we meet in 2 days, so it's going to have to go on the next month's agenda.
That's fine, but I think I suggested a time frame. I really think we should get the public hearings done this summer when the recreational season, not push it off till October.
And not do it in the off season when nobody's here.
No, we want to do it June, July, August. Shoot for that. So we
Great.
need the ordinance drawn up, passed by the town or public hearing and go from there, but that needs to be hit June, July, August. So,
Yeah, great point, Jim. Great point. Okay. Can we get a motion to table this?
I make a motion to table this point.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposing, the same sign. Motion carries 3 votes to 0 to table. All right, moving on. Discussion or decision to propose job posting notice for Clean Boats, Clean Waters. We submitted this. This is mainly so we can achieve the process we need to achieve by the board, making a decision on this and having input on this since we are involved in this program. More of dotting our I's and crossing our T's. I think everything looks pretty standard to me as far as the job posting.
Yep. Looks fine.
Any other questions or discussion?
No.
Can we get a
Need a
motion to approve? Yep.
Make a motion to post the watercraft inspection position.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposing, the same sign. Motion carries.
I just had a quick question. My office was asked to provide a document that listed different responsibilities relating to this grant. And I thought that was supposed to be discussed tonight. I know that was provided to Robin. Was that separate?
I can't.
Listen, Marissa, you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I
but
can't hear.
that listing that Patricia had forwarded, that was not going to be on the agenda tonight. That sprang up after the discussion of the job information came about for the town board to approve so they could post it. That's something that we're gonna have to continue to work on.
So the list of who's responsible for which duties, that's gonna be on a different agenda?
Correct. It's not on tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Discussion and or decision, moving on, discussion or decision of seeking a new police chief, accepting applications, proposals, and setting the decision-making process. I guess this is on here. Applications aren't due back to, the final, I should say final, but the initial ones that we'd be looking at aren't due until April 1st, March 31st. Do we want to have a work session in between with, it's Captain May, right? Is that correct, Matt?
It's Captain Travis Maze, M-A-Z-E.
Maze. Okay. As far as, do we want to have a preliminary short workshop just to kind of lay out the groundwork of what we'll be looking for? It's just a question for the board. Or do you want to just handle it all at once?
Yeah, I just shouldn't handle it all at once.
Okay.
Just to have an interview with the applicant.
Matt, is there any standard operating procedure that's in print for your job?
There is a printout. I put a new policy in place when I took over as chief. So there is a job description already typed out in the policy and procedure manual for each position. The sergeants, the chief, and the patrolman and the boat patrol all have job descriptions and what their duties are at the time. If you wish to get a copy of that, I'd be more than happy to provide that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yep.
I'll do that then. I can put one in each of your baskets.
All right, thank you.
That should be suffice for what we need to do.
I think so, except for we're not letting Matt go, so we're good.
I'll be around for a little bit to help the new chief.
Awesome.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I don't know if we need a decision on that then. Unless you guys want to make a decision on just to use that format, or you want to see it first.
Yeah, let's see it first.
Okay.
I'm assuming that'll be our guide roadmap.
All right, moving on. Discussion or decision of additional appointed election workers and high school workers.
Yeah, so we're working on getting ready for the elections coming up. And one of the previous appointees from December is actually on the ballot, so that she cannot work at the spring election. And depending on what's on the ballot moving forward and whether or not she's elected the position she's seeking, she may not be able to work at future elections for referendums and such. Not sure, we want to make sure everything's done correctly. We did have a couple of people step up willing to work, and I also asked about high school students with Mr. Quinn at the high school, because we always like to get them incorporated as well. So the list is to add would be for Beth Wakeman, Paul Wakeman, Madigan Unz as a high school student, Kirsten Gonzalez as a high school student, and Sydney Williams as a high school student.
Robin, do the high school kids, do they have to be 18 to be a poll worker, or is that just anybody can volunteer?
They can be 16 or 17, and there is a sign-off form that their parents have to sign. But once they turn 18, even if they're a high school student, they're considered just a regular poll worker because they're an adult.
Okay, thanks.
I'd make a motion to approve the March 2022 appointees stated by Robin.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries to approve the March 22 appointees. Okay, discussion or decision of waiver form for town volunteers. We talked to Robin, emailed the WTA, and they suggested it's a good idea to have a liability waiver. I 100% agree. Just remove that. So we have a draft here that obviously looked at a couple other communities to put that together, but I think it would be good to move this on to our town attorney and essentially approve it based on his updates or information that he puts into it.
Does our town insurance, liability insurance cover any volunteers, or?
That was why I highlighted that in red, I guess, because I wasn't sure.
My understanding is they were for us getting a waiver. They do cover, I think, certain things. It's kind of complicated. I believe I forwarded her response, but I don't know if it actually answers your question. I'll see if I can get a better answer from our representative on there. I think it boils down to what it is that they're actually doing, or what the incident is. If they end up hurting somebody else while they're volunteering, then I think it's covered. But if they get hurt, I don't think it's covered.
Right. I think that's kind of how I would interpret it too.
Okay.
It'd be good to get that ruling with that language in, or get that correctly stated in there.
Okay, so Robin, you could work with our insurance agent and the attorney and address all these issues if they come up. I don't know.
This is fairly time sensitive. I think the Parks Committee wanted to have volunteers. I think the date was April 21st. I think that's shortly after our April meetings. It's late this year. So I guess we can just.
I make a motion to approve this draft to be sent to the town's attorney and insurance company for comment.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposing, the same sign. Motion carried. Discussion or decision of consideration for a consultant to assist with the bipartisan infrastructure bill, federal funding for projects. There's a lot of paperwork involved with this. Nothing is easy with the federal government, as we've all witnessed. And me and Robin talked about this a little bit, about making sure that whatever we do submit, that there is a professional that really understands the system to make sure that we have all our ducks in order. And I want to say I agree with that. But
I listened to that Zoom call for the 3 hours that morning. From what I got out of it is that your engineer that does the drawings for the road cannot be the engineer that submits the draft. Is that correct? Or the application for the grant.
That's
You
for
cannot-
phase one. Phase one. Phase two, I believe they can do everything, and engineering fees are covered, if I'm correct on that. But not phase one, and I think we already decided against phase one.
Yeah, we did. I'm talking phase two, but I thought that they said, first off, you have to select a engineer by a quality-based system, QBS system, correct? Now, maybe because the state of Wisconsin runs this whole program,
Right, with
start to finish.
Yep.
The takeaway I got out of that, and maybe you're right and I'm wrong, but I was pretty sure they specifically said that the engineer that does the grant writing cannot be the engineer that does the engineering of the drawing up of the plans.
That could be accurate. I mean, that information was.
So I think we need to check on that first, because if RA
Yeah.
Smith.
So what do they think, Jim, that it gives them a conflict of interest? Is that what they? Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
No, if that's not the case, that's fine, but that's one thing I took away from that BIL seminar. And then the other thing was that you're right, Tom, it starts with the engineering drawing the plan. All the state pays for everything. However that happens, but the town only pays at the very end, when the project's done, closed out. You get a bill from the state for the 20% of the engineering, everything. Which is really, if that's the way it is, that's a big benefit to the town of Lake Mills, because we wouldn't have money to pay for the engineering up front. The state's gonna cover all that. And then you just get a bill in 2026 or whatever this is for the 20%. So you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time to designate and get money set aside for that 20%.
Correct.
Okay.
Financially, yeah, because we have that other grant with the other one going, potentially that would get accepted on another road. And then if we applied for phase two, it gives us a number of years, 26, 27, to pocket, to basically bank money, so we don't have to take all loans to pay the 20% and the potential 50% on the other one. To come up and be smart about that. So it was really good. I mean, it was really smart what we did with all the rating stuff and getting a plan together, because now we can we can figure this out without it being super painful on the loan front.
Right, and I think if the road is Mud Lake Road, we go for the whole thing, the whole distance all at once. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Just do the whole thing.
And you got a copy of that, I believe, too. So.
Of what?
Corey had that estimated projection on that.
No, I didn't.
It was like $800,000.
No, I didn't get that.
Yeah, he's bad at CCing,
haven't
and
seen
I thought I
it
forwarded it to Robin, but he's bad at CCing the town clerk, so I've got to get on him about that. But yeah, it was around 800,000, 800 and a little bit of change for that entire road, and that was everything that the reconstructs that we suggested, reconstruct and then the mill and overlay in the middle or whatever. but
Well, even if it's $1 million, it's $200,000 the town pays. It's not, you know, and that's doable for the town in 5 years from now, so.
correct.
It is very, very attractive, and I think we need to definitely get in this 2023, whatever it was, 23.
But with this, that's a June submission, I believe.
Right.
Correct.
Is that the phase 2?
That's phase 2. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And just so you guys know, when all these email strings are going through, it is very hard to keep up when there's constant back and forth and trying to keep everybody informed. So we really got to encourage the reply all for things, for sure.
Yeah, I apologize. Corey he's been guilty too of not CCing you, and I do my best to forward when I get them, but that is what the rough estimate was off the top of my head when he sent back. So on that one, but yeah, moreover, there has been, I mean, nothing has been easy about the whole thing. I mean, it's been a complicated environment, and things have unfolded and changed as it's went on. So I guess we can revisit that and take a look at that before we make a decision on a consultant.
Well, we're sitting here March. We got to have an application in by June.
Yep.
And if we do have to get a different engineer than R.A. Smith, I assume we want R.A. Smith to do the design work.
That would be optimal. Just
So if it's true that he cannot do the grant writing, then we need to get a different engineer to do the grant writing. And those engineers that were on that were heirs and associate. Well,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think we need to find out the answer to that question right away, and then start moving forward on the grant.
I can dig into that. I mean, I can dig into that and get that part of it.
Okay.
Figure out and get some ideas on who we need to be contacting and go from there.
So would it be like an RFP that we would need to do to find, if we find out we do need to have a second engineer to do the front end work, would we need to do an RFP system in order to find someone?
I don't think so. I think you can get anybody to write a grant. You can hire them directly.
Okay.
The engineer, that's a different question. They have a QBS process. I don't know what's involved with that. So.
I can ask Brian too and find out what he knows.
Well, see, that's another thing they said. The county doesn't have. I mean, that's nice that he's helping us.
Yeah.
But they have no responsibility to help us at all because
they don't. Yeah.
It's a state-run project, not a county.
But he can at least get us directed into the right person.
Yeah. It's nice that he's helping us.
No, he's been great. He's been great.
Yeah.
And I informed the county about that as well, that he's been great asset. Is this something you want to make a decision on tonight?
Well, I don't know.
Or
Yeah,
wait.
April meeting's late, 19th. So,
Yep.
you know, I would like to make a decision on it, and I'll just float a motion out there make a motion that we have Tom check with the state on the requirements and proceed with getting a firm to do the grant writing to get this moved forward so we hit the June deadline for the application.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Second. Yep, sounds good. Perfect.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed in the same sign. Motion carries. Correspondence. Robin, do you have any?
Nothing major. The one thing for elections I'd like to let people know about is the change in the legislation as far as the drop boxes used for absentee ballots. They have sort of taken that option away, and the ins and outs that I'm understanding is they can't just drop it in the drop box at the town hall any longer. They need to have a postmark date on there and have it delivered, or they need to give it to me directly. I'm going to do the best I can to educate the electors that do need absentee ballots as we're going through this. But the legislature really tied our hands on an option that we've used for decades with no issues.
we need to put a sign on the drop box up here that says, do not.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I don't want anyone to not have their ballot count. So I want them to have their ballot be counted properly.
I just have two quick ones that came in actually today. Luke Wiedenfeld called me and from the high school with the FFA about doing the volunteer stuff, trying to lock down a date. But then he also went and say that he's going to be applying for a grant to basically get subsidiary money for fun stuff like food and things for the kids and t-shirts and tools and things like that they can use on volunteer projects. And so that was great to hear. And then John Reich sent me an email from the DNR late in the game on PFAS essentially with the gist of the letter, and I will get this off to you, to Robin, was essentially the DNR is going to pay for testing. They were concentrating on municipalities, but they'll also do it in town wells if residents want to do that, to see if there's any type of levels. They want to kind of see what's all going on with it and if it is an issue and if there's target areas and things like that. So I think that is positive, and that we get that information out there, at least get it posted on the website if that's the case, so people have the opportunity to do that. All I have. Meeting scheduled April 5th, 2022 spring election, 7 to 8, April 6th, Plan Commission meeting, 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, April 7th, 2022 Parks Committee meeting. That's if there's not one before. Well, the March one hasn't been held yet, maybe depending on how it unfolds. April 19th, annual meeting of the town electors, 7 p.m. at the Town Hall. April 14th, 2022 Joint Rock Lake Committee meeting at the City Hall. And then April 19th, 2022 Town Board meeting, 7 p.m. at the Town Hall. Get a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All approved. Town of Lakeville's Town Board meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys. I know it was a long one.